In 2016, Lex Borgens, Bart Goldstein, Nobel laureate James Heckman, and John Humphreys, we will from now on refer to them as BGHH, conducted a study comparing the extent to which personality and intelligence are related to positive life outcomes, seeing that correlations between personality measures and positive life outcomes were higher than the ones between intelligence and positive life outcomes. They concluded that intelligence was not very good at predicting positive life outcomes compared to personality. This, however, was not very convincing for these two gentlemen, Chen Zisman and Yov Ganzach. They decided to replicate the study, changing the datasets considered. Let's touch on them. In the BGHH study, we have 4 datasets considered. 2 of them will end up being discarded. Here's the reason. The Stella Maris dataset we'll ignore because it doesn't have any measures of positive life outcomes. Also, we'll ignore the British cohort study sample because it doesn't have measures of the big 5 traits, at least not all of them. Of the BGHH study, we will, however, consider the NLS Y79, because we've got all we need. We got a measure of intelligence in the form of the Armed Forces Qualifying Test, which is a valid and widely used measure of intelligence. We've got personality measures, the 10-item personality inventory, which measures the big 5 traits, and this sample counts 12,000 participants. We can also add the NLSY 97, which is the same in terms of measurements, but was conducted 20 years later. This way we add 8,900 participants. Okay, let's keep adding samples. Another samples we keep from the BGHH study is the MIDAS, that is the National Service of Midlife Development in the United States. It has the BTACT for intelligence and the MIDEA for our Big 5 measurement. We then add the ADD. In this case, intelligence was measured with the Peabody Picture Vocabulary Test, which is highly correlated with the WISE. Big 5 traits were measured with the Mini IPIP, which is a shorter version of the International Personality Item Pool, and this is a very large sample as 20,000 participants completed the surveys. Second to last, we consider the WLS, a sample of 10,300 people. For intelligence, the Hannon-Nelson test of mental abilities was used, which was shown to correlate highly with the WAIS and the Armed Forces Qualifying Test. For personality, we have the BFI-10, which is composed of 10 items from the Big 5 inventory. And finally, we have the PIAAC, which counts 5,000 participants. For intelligence, we have the average literacy and numeracy test scores, and for personality, a 15-item subset of the Big 5 inventory. These were our samples and our personality and intelligence measures. For each one of the samples, we also have 3 imported variables that constitute our positive life outcome measures. High school GPA, which is simply the average of the grades that the participants got in high school. We have this measure for the NLS Y79 and 97, as well as having it for the WLS. The second measure, this one is present in all the samples we considered, is the log pay, which is the natural logarithm of hourly, monthly, or yearly pay. This is our occupational success measure. Finally, all 6 samples had a measure of educational attainment. The method used to answer the main question the study is trying to answer is the following: comparing the correlation between intelligence and important life outcomes to the correlation between personality and these outcomes. The results were very different from the BGHH study. Even when comparing the samples that the 2 studies had in common, Considering pay in the NLS Y97, the results show that intelligence has a greater predictive validity than personality, an R-squared of 0.091 and 0.049 for intelligence and personality respectively, while BGHH results show a greater predictive validity for personality, an R-squared of 0.018 and 0.05 for intelligence and personality respectively. The confused authors even state we could not find an explanation for this difference, since the sample and the methods used were the same. In general, also, in the 6 datasets analyzed, the predictive validity of intelligence with regard to educational and occupational success was far higher than the predictive validity of the Big Five. The authors are hesitant to say, however, that personality, being a worse predictor of success compared with intelligence, implies that intelligence is more important for success than personality. It could be that the self-report nature of the Big Five as a personality measure is what makes it a bad predictor. Maybe other ways to measure personality could prove to be better at predicting educational and occupational success.